We are on our way. And we are convinced it's the right one. A journey that will influence the lives of many. That will make life better, more exciting, more flexible, simpler, digital, electric. We have set the course. And we are ready. The future is what drives us. The ultimate motivation. That's why we are accelerating. Ever forward. On our way to zero. On our way to becoming the most desirable brand for sustainable mobility. On our way to the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning from Wolfsburg and welcome to our annual media conference of Volkswagen. 2021 for us, like for the entire industry, truly was a very challenging year. The continued impact of the COVID pandemic and the semiconductor shortages obviously were felt in our business and for Volkswagen. However, this was also the first year of our Accelerate strategy, a time where we've made very important investments in future areas. And together with you, we now would like to look back at this past year, but at the same time, let us also look ahead. Now, in a moment, I'm going to welcome the CEO of Volkswagen Passenger Cars, Ralf Brandstätter, and the CFO, Alexander Seitz. The two gentlemen have prepared two little presentations for you, and then also we'll have Scott Keogh, Pablo Disi, and Stefan Wallenstein, who will talk about the current situation in our sales regions of North America, South America, and China. And then after that, we, as always, will have time to take your questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've already said that this past year for Volkswagen was a challenging one. And that obviously is not going to change in 2022. And this is what I'd like to talk about now with our CEO of Volkswagen Passenger Cars. Hello, Ralf. Now, Ralf, when we talk about 2021, what comes to mind is the COVID pandemic and the semiconductor shortage, but so many other things have happened within Volkswagen. So what is your highlight of that past year? Well, Robin, quite a few of those come to mind, and whenever new products come out and are launched with the Taro or the Taigo, just to name two of them, but also the ID.4 that we launched in China, in Europe, and in North America. Now, a special moment also was when for the first time we hit this button to activate the first over-the-air update for our ID model. So that was special as well, and it's worked really well. So I think for all of us, for the entire team, that was a special moment. It was new, and certainly it was a highlight. Now, another highlight certainly was something for me quite personally, namely over the past year, I have really and truly felt that readiness and willingness to change within our teams. So people are ready, are willing actually to actively shape the future, both in R&D, where we're separating now hardware and software development, focusing on systems engineering, it's not only important for R&D, but for all divisions. And then the Trinity project. That's a project that has truly electrified us, both in terms of that product, so a new product features that it comes with, but also we have taken a decision to reinvent production here at headquarters. So that decision was a pivotal one. We're going to build a new production facility with new engineering concepts. So truly, I think these were the highlights for me. Now, this year, it is the events in Ukraine that we'll be focusing on. And what's the impact for our business, you think? Well, I think there will be significant consequences, of course. But again, this doesn't matter as much if you bear in mind how people are suffering in Ukraine and what ordeal they have to go through. So truly, we are in our thoughts with people in that country. And all we can do is hope to return to a peaceful development. Peace in Europe, truly is what we need, and people should sit at the negotiating table and agree on such arrangements that you would expect in the 21st century here in Europe. You want to talk to each other. You want to use diplomacy to come to solutions. But I'd also like to take this opportunity to express my thanks and truly gratitude to all of our employees who work in different task forces. Have been working in the semiconductor task force, now are moving into mitigating that Ukraine crisis, and really people are doing an outstanding job to make sure that we stabilize our supply chains. And what's also true is that we're really grateful to all those of you who have taken their personal commitment that extra mile further by helping people in Ukraine and mitigate that conflict. And we really feel that people are standing together here in Europe, and I'm really grateful that we have people that can do that. So what do you think? What does that mean for the VW business? Well, to be specific about that and what that all means, well, it's certainly difficult, and we're working on that in trying to understand what's going to happen. But we do already feel now there's a direct impact on our supply situation in Zwickau and other production plants where we cannot build vehicles at this moment. Now, I think we can compensate that thanks to our regional footprint in China, North America, South America, and also some plants in Southern Europe, in Portugal and Spain, are less affected by that crisis. And this is really where our global production network comes in to help us really to compensate for those undersupplies. But it's true that we need to be back to stabilize our business quickly to make sure we can look ahead. Now, Ralf, thank you very much for the moment. We're going to see you in a second. So let me also give you a housekeeping announcement to representatives of the media. Whenever you have a question, please submit them in writing in our chat window, but you may also want to dial in by phone at a later point. So that's what I wanted to share with you. With that, it's over to Ralf Brandstätter. Ralf, please.
Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, 2021 was an exceptional year. However, Volkswagen has successfully stayed the course. In a challenging environment, we not only stayed on the operative course we had charted, but also improved our profitability. We're more profitable, more crisis-resistant, and we are better performing than a year before. With our Accelerate strategy, we have concomitantly accelerated our transformation. This is the result of the great team effort of every single one of our 200,000 colleagues worldwide. I'd like to thank you most warmly on behalf of the entire Board of Management, and I would like to thank you personally. Ladies and gentlemen, on to the key figures of 2021. 4.9 million vehicles less delivered to customers, which is 8% less than the previous year. Nevertheless, we've increased our revenue by 5 billion to 76 billion euros. Operating result, despite the pronounced contraction in sales and high capex into future development, was at 2 billion euros, or 2.5 billion euros without China. The return on sales improved to 0.6% to 3.3%. And we are really set on achieving our margin target of 6% in 2023. Volkswagen has strengthened its economic viability and profitability. At the same time, we've worked on the costs. Since 2019, our fixed costs have been cut by 1 billion euros. At the same time, the number of highly equipped vehicles in our model mix has been increased. North and South America, for the first time for several years, are now back in the profit zone. The regions are now sustainably profitable. And that underlines that we've improved our resilience. An important contribution came from our attractive and strong margin key product on MQB basis. The Tiguan, the T-Roc and the Taygo, and the new Tiger in Europe, the Taos in North and South America, the Atlas and Atlas Cross Sports in the US, the Tamaran in China, and of course, the Golf. It remains a bestseller, both in 2021 and the years before. It was the most sold car. We have accelerated our steps in this direction, direction forward. We have geared our strategy accelerate to this effect, which we presented exactly a year ago. Electrification, digitalization, and business cases, and autonomous car driving, new business cases, and autonomous driving are important area. We've made headway. The electric offer has been expanded. 2021, we've launched 3 E-models, the ID4, ID5, and the performance variant GTX, and the ID6 in China. The World Car ID4 for Europe, China, and the US became a bestseller from the get-go. With 120,000 units, it was the most frequently delivered Volkswagen electric model. Worldwide, at 369,000 electric vehicles delivered to customers, we had a plus of 73% over the previous year. The number of fully electric vehicles at 263,000 units has almost doubled. In Germany, Sweden and Finland and Ireland, every third electric vehicle comes with a VW logo. In the US, we have, from the get-go, achieved rank 4 of the leading E-OEMs, BEV OEMs. 2 out of 3 ID4 customers joined the brand. In the US, our order books are full. In China, our E-offensive is working. Semiconductor shortage, however, has decelerated the ramp-up. We could have built even more electric cars, but 77,000 e-vehicles were able to be built. The jump to much more than 4 times the previous year was a successful year indeed, with ambitious targets. The ID Life was the highlight of the Frankfurt Motor Show. Our vision for urban entry-level mobility is digital, likable and sustainable. 2025, our e-vehicles in the compact car segment for 20,000 euros is launched. On the way to zero, we are on track. Our e-car fleet was at 113 grams per kilometer, which is 6 grams less carbon emissions than stipulated by the lawmakers. And to this effect, we have made an important contribution to carbon compliance of the group, of the Volkswagen Group. Ladies and gentlemen, Volkswagen is transforming into a tech company. The efforts of the past year are now reaping the benefits. We are reaping the benefits of these with the current software updates on the ID family, also in cars like the Golf. Using these, we improve the digital customer experience. In Europe, the over-the-air updates have been successfully rolled out, and we've had more than 100,000 updates for our cars in the ID family. With this, we create the preconditions for functions on demand, additional services that customers can flexibly book them when they need them and where they need them. By the way, last December, we quite successfully kicked this function and this offer off. Particularly popular are the sat-nav function and the full beam assist. The new business cases in Germany have become possible. We entered these. Volkswagen Auto Abo, the subscription service, starting September, became to be available in Germany and is meeting with resounding interest and acclaim. The users, by the way, on average are 10 years younger than the traditional Volkswagen drivers were, and this is why we are tapping into new customer groups. The offer will be expanded. It is important that we control the interplay between technical development, design, the model series and sales, the target, the vehicle becomes part of the digital life world of our customers. Ladies and gentlemen, our strategy is gaining traction, and we've made a leapfrog advancement when it comes to forging ahead. We want to become more profitable and make Volkswagen the most attractive brand for electric mobility. In 2021, we have made tremendous headway towards this. More on this is something Alexander Seitz will tell you about.
Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, auch von mir ein herzliches
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to our annual press conference as well.
Erfolge und Meilensteine des zurückliegenden Geschäfts.
And indeed, Ralf Brandstätter has just explained to you the most important milestones of our financial year. But let me also now briefly talk about our key financials here. The unit sales of the Volkswagen brand in 2021 was at 2.7 million vehicles. Now, that is again less than in the year before. Why is that? Well, it is mainly related to the supply shortages with semiconductors. In other words, we couldn't build quite as many vehicles as we could have. So our order book also has never been as high as it is today, and it actually shows you that our products are very much in demand. SUVs now account for 40% of our global volumes. So it's the most compelling and fastest growing market segment. But also for our BEVs, we are seeing top-selling models in all of our regions. So despite a decline in unit sales in 2021, we've been able to increase our sales revenue to 76 billion euros. That's 7% or 5 billion euros more than in the prior year. So that is also predominantly thanks to our attractive model lineup. But also, increasingly, we have been able to sell better equipped cars. So that is very positive. And the operating profit before special items compared to the prior year, we've been able to increase significantly despite the lower unit sales. Our operating profit before special items after those 12 months of the past year came in at 2.5 billion euros, which is 2 billion more than in the prior year. The return on sales before special items for 2021 was 3.3%. In other words, 2.7 percentage points more than in the prior year. So this means we're exactly in the target range of 3 to 4% that we have budgeted. And there's a number of reasons why that is so. Now, first of all, I said that thanks to selling higher equipped cars, we've been able to improve the quality of earnings. We've allocated semiconductors in such a way that we could increase our margin despite shrinking sales, volume sales that is. And then our regions of North and South America also have successfully implemented their turnaround plans and have made a positive contribution to the operating profit. So they were significant above the prior year, and we had a number of negative foreign currency translation effects like in high inflation countries like Argentina with the peso, but thanks to price adjustments, we've been able to overcompensate for that. Our product costs, however, were somewhat impacted by commodity costs. That was particularly true for steel and for precious metals. We had to pay much more than in the year before. So despite this rather challenging market environment, we have been able to get a positive result out of improved sourcing performance in North America. Also, we've been able to compensate for those negative effects. And in South America, there were still negative impacts related to material costs, high inflation, and foreign exchange effects. But we've generally optimized our overheads. R&D spending in 2021 have increased compared to the year before. Well, why is that? Well, that is because we have continue to transform our businesses to invest in future areas as well. Now, when it comes to cost reduction measures and the improvements in earnings quality, we have managed to improve the resilience of Volkswagen in 2021, and we've reduced our break-even threshold. Thanks to restrictive spending policies, we've been able to exceed our overheads targets for 2021. This is also thanks to reduced marketing spending and restrictive hiring programs, which has allowed us to keep a level freeze of our headcount at Volkswagen. Fixed costs in total were more than 10% below 2019, which is the pre-crisis year. So more than 1 billion euros less, not factoring in R&D, that is, but still, it's a historic low. In the past fiscal year, we have reduced our investment spending to an unprecedented low level of 2008 and 2009. So that is, again, thanks to good investment discipline and savings. We've also prioritized a number of investment projects. Our capex ratio comes in at 3.9%, which is slightly below the strategic corridor of 4 to 5%. But when we talk about investments, it's not really about the relative quantity, really, but it's about the target. Because we're using those 3 billion euros to invest them in a targeted fashion. We're focusing on what our brand strategy Accelerate has defined, namely the important segments of transforming our production facilities, the electrification of our product portfolio, and digital. Now, what that means is that 50% of our spending at Volkswagen goes into electromobility in products and factories. Capex savings then also have helped us to accelerate our R&D spending that we need for ramping up electric mobility. And it also has allowed us to implement our innovation strategy together with our China roadmap for development functions. Now we're focusing here clearly on the connectivity of our vehicles, focusing on new software features, and also try to increase product appeal for our customers. R&D costs in 2021, therefore, have gone up compared to the prior year, but at 4.1%, they were almost in line with our strategic target of 4%. Now, we should also bear in mind that R&D costs that are applying here in Germany, but for Chinese projects, do not come with sales relating to vehicles sold. Why? Because our Chinese joint ventures are only consolidated as a dividend payment in our financial results. So without this effect, the R&D ratio is only 3.7%. But there again, 40% of all of that R&D spending goes into electric mobility. Our North and South America regions in 2021 were significantly above the previous year. In fact, they have significantly exceeded the break-even level thanks to cost discipline, restructuring of the business, and an earnings-focused management of sales channels. Now, in 2020, those regions have been burdening our business results, but in 2021, thanks to the break-even, they have been a good positive contributor for the operating result of the Volkswagen brand, and they've really turned around the business. So those were our key financials in 2021, and now let us have a look ahead at 2022. So what do we have on our plate here? Now, this year, when it comes to volume sales, we expect an increase compared to 2021. So we're quite confident that no later than in the second half of this year, the availability of semiconductors should improve. In other words, we will be building more cars, we'll be selling more cars from then on, and the profits and also our operating return on sales is going to go up in 2021. So a margin of 6% until 2023. So by 2023 remains our general objective. Now, in 2022, we also want to optimize our working capital further to increase the operating net cash flow. But having said that, I should add that these are provisional projections because no one knows how the situation in Ukraine is going to develop in the coming weeks and months. The war in Ukraine and the economic sanctions vis-à-vis Russia obviously may have a severe impact on our forecast for 2022. Now, we want to keep our investment activities at the lower end of our strategic corridor. As in the year before, we are clearly placing the priority on strategic future areas like our Campus Sandkamp Development Center. Now, we're keeping the investment ratio generally low, but But we can also take additional spending whenever needed in R&D for our growth strategy in the US as well. And that is important because the transformation ahead of us is still a major challenge. Now, with our Accelerate strategy, we also, the clue's in the name, we accelerate the transformation from turning into a software-based mobility provider rather than being just a car maker. And such a fundamental transformation under our own steam is possible if our profitability is right. And we, as the finance division at Volkswagen, need to make sure that this is possible thanks to leveraging efficiencies across the value chain. So the better we do that, the faster Volkswagen will be headed towards its new course to become a carbon neutral and digital player. Now this year, and also in the coming years, we are going to take a number of measures to improve our earnings quality. We are going to continue our earnings-based management. We are going to stabilize the profit contributions of our regions and grow them from there. And we have to be strict on cost discipline, especially overheads. We need to keep our spending ratios stable. We want to reduce also the number of model variants and derivatives, reduce complexity, but at the same time increase productivity in our factories and lower the break-even threshold even further. So, as you see, there's a lot on our plate here. In 2022, we're moving ahead, transforming the Volkswagen brand as we have done in those past years, not only here at headquarters, but also in our regions. And this is what we're going to have a look at our regions, namely North and South America. And for that, it's now over to our Head of Communications, Robin Aschhoff.
Alexander, vielen Dank. Wir haben es gerade gehört, unsere Region in Nord.
Thank you very much, Alexander. We've just heard that our regions in North and South America have become profitable for the first time in many years. Great work was done over the last few years. So I'll switch back to the regions for the look back onto the year. The beginning is Pablo de Silva. Liebe Journalisten, meine Damen und Herren, die Sie zugeschaltet sind, es macht mir eine große Freude, zu Ihnen anlässlich der Konferenz sprechen.
And the main reason for our successful turnaround. That is our team and the culture of our company in South America. I am proud and grateful for the initiative, responsibility, talent and commitment of our team during these last couple of years. 2021 was the year of our turnaround. We achieved profitability and positive net cash flow. And we have also gained significant market share despite of the pandemic and chip shortage. In line with the Volkswagen Accelerate strategy, which was based on a consistently improvement of our product portfolio, combined with a reduction of our fixed costs and adjustment in the capacity of our 6 factories in the region. We have also completed the most aggressive product portfolio renovation in the history of our company, launching over 20 very successful products aligned with regional customer expectations. Most of these products, like the Nivus and Taos, were developed by our local team, and not only from a design and engineer point of view, but also by creating the infotainment and digital ecosystem. I am very proud to see the Nivus named Taigo, which is produced and sold in Europe. We have also developed and localized the infotainment system, which we call VoxPlay, exported to around 70 countries, and started a creation of a digital ecosystem where we're monetizing in the digital space. We're also leaders in the A0 SUV segment, with over 20% of market share with Nivus and T-Cross in both markets of Brazil and Argentina. Also in 2021, we started many initiatives around the Volkswagen Way to Zero. We approved at board level the creation of a biofuel research and development center in Brazil. With almost 90% reductions of CO2 emissions, ethanol represents a complementary strategy until e-mobility is a viable option in South America. And looking ahead at 2022, we see a growing market with many opportunities, and also some challenges with regards to inflation and volatility in the currency, especially in a presidential election year in Brazil and the negotiation with the IMF in Argentina. But this team has proven that we can take the business opportunities and also face and work to minimize our challenges. We feel a strong market, particularly in the SUV and pickup segments, And with an additional investment of some 1 billion euros until 2026, we will make our business in the region even more resilient and future-proof. We're investing in 3 key strategic areas: additional regionalized models, digitalization, and decarbonization. And in the following years, we will expand the compact family cars for the entry segment based on the NQB platform, which brings substantial development cost savings. We will also boost our software competence, enhance digital experience, connect our fleet, and speed up new data-driven business models. In 2022, we will continue to work together as a strong team with clear understanding of where we need to go and to continue to grow our business in a profitable and sustainable way in South America. Muito obrigado, muchas gracias. Thank you once again for your time.
Pablo, vielen Dank. Und damit schalten wir jetzt in die USA zu Scott Q.
Pablo, thank you very much, and we'll switch to the US for Scott Q. It's great to see you. The ID. Buzz has arrived. The car is now the star at this Southwest in Austin. Then it will come as a production car, and now we're looking back to 21.
Everyone around the globe, thank you for this opportunity to share the state of our business here in America and the excitement we have for the road ahead as we fulfill our strategic role for the Volkswagen brand. This is a story in 4 rather straightforward parts. First, of course, is profitability. I'm proud to report we're back with a healthy business. The Volkswagen brand is profitable again, and not only in the U.S., but in all North American markets: Mexico, Canada, and the United States. And we have every intention of keeping it that way, full stop. And we're doing that by utilizing our production capabilities to deliver the right products to the market, which of course leads to the second part. We are meeting the market with products the American consumers want. And in America, there are no products more desired or profitable than SUVs. Sport utility vehicles accounted for more than 70% of our sales in 2021, 15% just a few short years ago, with the Atlas and Atlas Cross Sport continuing to lead the charge, while the all-new Taos and newly reimagined Tiguan meet the growing market for compact SUVs. As a result, despite the ongoing supply chain challenges plaguing the entire automotive industry, our new vehicle sales in the U.S. were the highest they've been since 2013. With just over 375,000 units sold, we finished up 15% versus the previous year. And Volkswagen dealers delivered those results with lower inventory, higher turn rates, and the lowest incentives we've seen in decades. Thirdly, those dealers and their customers also answered our call to electrification with the ID4. Dealers love it because it's quickly become the most profitable performer in their portfolio. Customers love it because it delivers on every promise we made, and we've made them, in fact, EV believers. 90% of ID4 owners were first-time EV buyers, 70% were new to Volkswagen. To continue that conquest, we've committed over 20 million through this year to our dealer network, transforming Volkswagen dealerships into EV experience hubs, serving communities across the country. Because we have clearly arrived at the tipping point for electrification in the U.S., so now is the time to accelerate our strategy. And that has started with localizing ID4 production at our factory in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with American-made ID4s rolling off the line in the fall of 2022. We are confident enough to increase our 2030 target for EV sales from 50 up to 55%. Finally, we are reclaiming our role as a cultural, iconic brand in America, bringing products to the market that not only advance our global vision, but having a little fun while we're at it, with that classic Volkswagen wink. We see it, of course, right here in the ID. Buzz, in the drawings and paintings the next generation of Volkswagen drivers send me. We see it in the emails we receive from customers every day. We see it in the pride ID4 owners have as ambassadors of our vision, like the ID4 owner who got a surprise visit from California's governor because his EV was the 1 millionth vehicle to be registered in the state. For all of us at Volkswagen of America, all of this can be summed up in 2 words: drive bigger. We believe it's our mission, the Volkswagen mission, to lead the industry into this new era of mobility. And that's what I'm proud to say we're doing each and every day here in the States. Thank you very, very much.
Scott, vielen Dank. So viel zu unserem Geschäft.
Scott, thank you very much. So much on our business in the regions North and South America. Ladies and gentlemen, the most important market for Volkswagen is China.
There's hardly any other country where the car industry develops as dynamically, and nowhere else can we really see the future of mobility where it has been so advanced. So there's a good reason for us to look into China, and for that I'd like to welcome our brand board member for China, Stefan Mellenstein. Stefan, hello, welcome. Now, first of all, I'd like to talk about something that is actually quite clear, namely China has been affected by the semiconductor shortage. So what do you think about that situation? Well, hello, Robin. One thing at the top, Volkswagen in 2021 has remained the number one in the Chinese market, despite those challenges that you just mentioned. But it's true. If you look at the numbers, the past year was without any doubt a very difficult one for our Volkswagen brand here in China. But, I'd like to take it with a grain of salt. We didn't really have a demand issue. We had a supply issue, really, because there was customer demand, but because of what you mentioned, the lack of computer chips and also the local COVID-19 plant shutdowns, we couldn't produce enough vehicles. Now, unfortunately, this has also affected our ID family deliveries, especially now in a moment where we're actually having the right products for a burgeoning market. Now, the ID family was going really well into the month of September. Every month we've been able to double our sales. But then when the fourth quarter hit, the ID family was affected by semiconductor bottlenecks. And then in December, we had some losses related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we couldn't sell all the IDs that we wanted to. So just to give you a general gut feeling, we lost about 20,000 units versus budget. And also for the internal combustion engines, that supply shortage has also eroded our market shares, no question at all. So we really want to make sure to see a stabilized semiconductor supply here to focus on the market requirements. Now, a moment ago, we talked about the special market requirements in China. So what is important when it comes to the future developments in your market? Well, just last year, the NEV market, the new energy vehicle market, really was the most dynamically growing market segment, something you can hardly imagine in Europe. We have more than 100 vehicle brands here, so it's very competitive. But the NEV segment is a first mover market with a very untypical pattern. Now, what does that mean? We see a very strong focus on the mini or entry-level segments, so really low-cost or inexpensive electric vehicles, but then also quite the opposite, a really strong premium price segment. So you have those two extremes that account for about 60% of the NEV market. But ID vehicles are targeting the middle, in between the two extremes. So the volume segment that is also now continuously growing because electric mobility also has now arrived at the middle classes in China. Now, this transition of the Chinese car market towards new energy vehicles has been slowing down a bit compared to Europe, but still the customer expectations are growing massively, especially when it comes to connectivity. So NEVs in China always stand for the smart car. And we're catering to this trend this year. Customers in China will be able to receive over-the-air updates. So that's good, and that helps us not only to fix issues, but also allows us to update functions, features, services, and really grow the customer experience as we go along. So that's very important for the year to come also. Now we're going to launch a unique augmented reality head-up display, the navigation system. And then there's another trend, which is automated driving. We have a clear roadmap here all the way to level 2+ functionalities. So this is what we're going to launch as a standard here in China in the next 2 years to come. But it's not only automated driving, but it's also autonomous driving, where we, Volkswagen, wants to be a pioneer. So what can we expect? How do we respond to the market requirements there in China? Well, something that's entirely clear, and actually there has been a decision already taken that we're going to bring R&D into the country here. We're going to build a new R&D presence at Anhui. And obviously we're also ramping up now our Carrier China brand here as well. Now today, as we speak, together with our joint ventures, we have about 6,000 engineers working out of China, so it's quite a lot. We want to double those numbers of the Carrier staff of 600. So we're in good shape, I think. And it also shows you that we're responding to the local customer expectations. We want to be trendsetters or trend shapers. And I think in the long term, innovations out of China can also be launched in other markets of the world. Now, Stefan, you just said a moment ago that we're doing really a good job in terms of offering e-vehicles for the Chinese market. Just last year, 5 ID models for the Chinese market. And also, we started rearranging the sales channels as well. So what have you done? Well, yeah. In order to tap that market potential of new energy vehicles, we also have to focus our attention on new customer groups. And it's really a growing number of digital natives, young people earning good money. And they're not only open for new brands and vehicles, but also new business models. So therefore, our decision was to sell our ID models through the agency model, which we do in Germany as well. And that allows us to reach out to our customers directly. And also what we want to do is to bring those vehicles to the main street, so to speak, in shopping centers, wherever people spend a lot of time. So we already have built up 120 ID stores in the main cities here across China. So they're focusing just on this vehicle model. And we see the customer visits there are much higher than in conventional dealerships. And our conversion rate is actually about 50% higher than in a conventional dealership. So we believe that those ID city stores are really the right way forward. Now, last question for you. What's the outlook going forward for the Chinese business? Well, the semiconductor supply remains volatile in the next couple of days, weeks. So we would expect more limitations there as well. However, when it comes to March and April, we're already seeing some improvements there. And I hope, Robin, that, when it comes to the deliveries, we come up to the level of 2020. Not 21, but the 2020, which was the pre-semiconductor crisis year. Now, when it comes to ID sales, we want to double them, compared to last year. We'll see, maybe more than double them. But we not only need more semiconductors, obviously, we also work on another front. We're going to grow the number of ID stores and ID sales agents. And as I said before, we're going to offer more OTA updates. And all of that, I think, will provide us with some tailwind in terms of ID sales. But one thing's clear. By the end of the decade, we want to and we have to have a market share in NEVs as we have enjoyed in the past 40 years when it comes to conventional combustion engine cars. So I think the course has been set. Well, thank you very much, Stefan, for that insight into the Chinese market. I'll talk to you later in our Q&A session. And with that, it's over to Ralf for some final comments on 2022.
Meine Damen und Herren, unsere Strategie.
Ladies and gentlemen, our strategy is gaining traction. Even in 22, Accelerate sets the course for the electrification of our vehicle fleet. We have ambitious objectives and targets. By 2030, at least 70% of our sales in Europe should be electric cars. In North America and China, at least 50%. We are further expanding our portfolio. The MEB in this is a central competitive advantage. And the signs are all pointing to e-mobility. We'll further develop our MQB models over the coming years. The next generation is going to leapfrog ahead in terms of value, the Passat Tiguan and Tayron will set new standards when it comes to quality. These Volkswagen bestsellers create the basis for investments into the future. MQB in perfection. We have set our sights on ambitious targets. By 2022, we'll be launching, at least 2026, we'll launch at least one new electric vehicle on the roads, and the focus will be on lasting quality and innovation. Last week, the ID. Buzz was launched in Hamburg. No other car has electrified the automotive world as much before. Worldwide, and particularly in the US, where the VW Bus is a bit of a cult even. So enthusiastic and excited are people. The ID. Buzz shows as well how flexible and how performance-oriented the electro platform MEB is. It's the most emotional member of the ID family and is a very likable car for the Volkswagen brand. And it has what it takes. It has that unmistakable appeal. 120,000 units will be sold annually. The ID.5 comes. It's the first SUV coupe from Volkswagen. With a premium feel. It exudes it. The ID.5 is the first car with a new software ID 3.1. We're looking at very full order books brimming with new orders, which we're pleased at. The show car ID will be launched mid-April in Beijing and gives you an outlook on the next member of the ID family's design. It has aerodynamic design, high range of 700 kilometers, and an hitherto unobtained space inside, and a premium interior. The first vehicles will be supplied in the second half of the year 2023 to customers in China. 2025, the first production version of the ID. Life, a compact car on the MEB platform basis, will be launched. And will create in every segment an electric vehicle to offer, thus creating the preconditions for our target to become world market leader in all things mobility. Even now, the demand for our ID models is rising steadily, which is why we are ramping up production of our electric models up every year. By 2022, 3 more factories will go live in Emden and Chattanooga. We have the mass production of the ID.4 starting, and in Hanover, the ID. Buzz is leaving the conveyor lines. And of course, with every new model, we make the electromobility experience even more customer-friendly. The ID.5 is the first car from Volkswagen with bi-directional charging. The battery of the electric car not only supplies the power for the car itself, but becomes a power bank. And charging will become even more comfortable than filling fuel. In the course of this year, we'll offer all ID models with plug and charge. Car and charging point directly communicate with one another, charging for the charging automatically. With Accelerate, and we put digitalization of our vehicles in the entire company even more in the focus. Even this year, we'll be starting with the worldwide rollout and of our over-the-air updates in the US, Canada, and China. These are the preconditions to us being able to offer function on demand in all markets. A new latest software release, ID 3.1, will incrementally be available to all ID customers. The new version improves range, shortens the charging times, it improves convenience and comfort. It optimizes the way customers control it, interact with it, and it's quite convincing with improved intuitive voice operation and individualizable multi-stop route planning. The new software release will, compared to the competitors, have better stability and better features. Just one example, our travel assist with the swarm intelligence data will make it possible to change lanes partially automated on autobahns and motorways. Our parent factories here in Wolfsburg forge ahead with transformation. Volkswagen is going through a dramatic renewal program, the largest in its history. From there, the Beetle and the Golf have written automotive history, and now a future plan for scalable systems platform means that the highly scalable electro architecture of the group is made here. The top model of our electric fleet will roll off the conveyor lines from 2026. With the Trinity, we'll be revolutionizing the fully electric mobility experience and the new standards for range, charge speed, and interconnected driving experiences. With the Trinity, we make the Wolfsburg site future-ready. With 800 million euros, we'll be investing into a new building of the development center and the Zandkamp campus. Up to 4,000 employees will work on this electric platform SSP and the Trinity on vehicles and technologies. Thomas Ulbrich and his team developed the worldwide largest development unit for modern development hubs. Clear focusing of all systems on function like the decoupling of hardware and software, shortened development cycles by 25%. Cars will be developed in 40 months instead of 54. For the 2 billion euro, we intend to set up in a directly adjacent to the parent factory, the Stammwerk, a new Trinity factory that will also change production there. The new plant will set new standards, fewer variants, better components, new production and logistics concepts. Our target, reducing the production time per vehicle to 10 hours. Immediately after the start of the global rollout with the SSP platform, with the Trinity start at our parent factory, and also in North America, and the Chinese models will be built on this highly scalable platform and be launched. From next year on in Wolfsburg, we'll make the ID.3. The high demand for the ID model means that Zwickau and possibly Emden can even not satisfy this huge demand. I'd like to thank all colleagues who since April 21 have worked to the best of their abilities to bring this plan forward. Together with them, this program has been started at our headquarters to be more efficient and ready for the future and the long term. I'd like to thank the employees for making us ready for the future, ladies and gentlemen, also in Lower Saxony and for the industrial location Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, I am and remain convinced that we have a strong strategy with speed, competence and passion, and we make Volkswagen even a better company. Thank you.